This is not a lesson. This is not something you need to learn. This is not information meant to be remembered. You don't need to take notes. You don't need to agree. You don't need to understand where this is going. You only need to stay here long enough to stop trying to leave. Most people think they're exhausted because life is hard, because the world is demanding, because the system is broken, because time moves too fast. But that's not why you're tired. You're tired because you're constantly adjusting yourself to fit into something that never asked you to arrive as you are. Every day you subtly correct your tone, your pace, your reaction, your thoughts. You tell yourself, not now, later, once I fix this, once I get there. And every time you do that, you postpone being. Not dramatically, not consciously, just slightly. And slightly over years becomes exhaustion. You don't feel tired in your body first. You feel tired in your presence. You wake up already managing, already orienting, already checking where you are relative to where you think you should be. That constant internal movement is what drains you. The law of being says something very simple. Nothing needs to move for reality to reorganize. Nothing needs to be pushed for alignment to occur. Nothing needs to be added for things to begin unfolding. But the mind resists this, because the mind was trained to survive by doing, by adjusting, by anticipating, by controlling outcomes, by staying useful, by staying relevant, by staying ahead. Stillness feels unsafe to a mind like that, because stillness has no role, no task, no direction, no feedback, no proof, and no reassurance. So the mind keeps doing small things, not big actions, small internal ones, checking, correcting, monitoring, evaluating, comparing, measuring. Even when you sit still, the mind stays busy making sure you're sitting still correctly. That's not peace. That's management. The law of being isn't asking you to stop your life. It's asking you to stop interfering with it. There is a difference. Interference is subtle. It sounds reasonable. It sounds responsible. It sounds like, I just need to figure this out. I just need to get through this phase. I just need to stabilize first. But stabilization never comes when you're the one forcing it, because the force itself is the instability. You don't arrive into being. You fall back into it when effort collapses, not when you try to collapse it, but when you get tired of holding yourself together. And that tiredness is not a failure. It's a signal, a very quiet one, saying, you can stop now. Nothing bad happens when you stop trying internally. The world doesn't collapse. Your life doesn't fall apart. You don't disappear. What disappears is the constant background tension you mistook for responsibility. For a moment, there is no direction, no next step, no improvement plan, no inner narration. And that moment feels empty until it feels free. Most people don't stay long enough to feel the freedom. They panic at the emptiness and restart effort, restart control, restart seeking, restart becoming, because becoming feels familiar, even when it hurts. Being feels unfamiliar because it doesn't need you to participate. It doesn't need your approval. It doesn't need your effort. It doesn't even need your belief. Being happens when you stop asking what should happen next. Right now, you don't need to do anything with these words. Let them pass. Let the silence between them exist. You are not behind. You are not late. You're not missing something. You're simply tired of holding an identity in place. And that tiredness is not something to fix. It's something to listen to. Because it only appears when you're ready to stop pretending you're in control. You don't notice stillness at first, because nothing announces it. There is no shift in scenery, no internal fireworks, no moment where you suddenly feel enlightened. Stillness begins quietly, almost disappointingly, as the absence of pressure you didn't know you were applying. At first, the mind keeps waiting for direction, waiting for a sign, waiting for something to happen so it knows it's doing this correctly. But nothing happens. And that's when the discomfort appears. Not fear, not anxiety, just a subtle restlessness, a sense of, this can't be it. The mind doesn't trust stillness because stillness doesn't explain itself. It doesn't justify its usefulness. It doesn't promise results. It doesn't reassure you that you're on the right path. So the urge to interfere returns. To think something, to plan something, to remember something, to re-engage effort just enough to feel oriented again. That urge is not a mistake. It's conditioning. Years of being rewarded for movement, for effort, for reaction, for control, for staying active even when nothing is required. The law of being doesn't fight this urge. It doesn't suppress it. It doesn't judge it. It simply doesn't follow it. You don't need to stop the mind. You just stop obeying it. And that's a very different thing. At some point, the mind realizes nothing bad is happening. You're not losing ground. You're not falling behind. You're not disappearing. Life continues. Breathing continues. Sounds continue. Time continues. Without your management. That realization does something subtle. It loosens the grip. Just a little. Not enough to notice, but enough for presence to deepen. This is where reality begins to reorganize. Not dramatically, not externally, but structurally. When effort drops, your system stops sending mixed signals. You're no longer saying, I want peace, while internally rehearsing survival. You're no longer saying, I trust life, while monitoring outcomes. You're no longer saying, I'm aligned, while correcting yourself every moment. The body feels this immediately, before the mind understands anything. The nervous system registers coherence, not excitement, not pleasure, just coherence. And coherence is what allows things to move naturally. Opportunities don't appear because you visualize them. They appear because you stopped resisting their timing. Clarity doesn't come because you thought harder. It comes because noise stopped interrupting it. This is why forcing manifestation fails. Because forcing sends a signal that something is missing, and reality responds by maintaining that absence. Being sends no signal, and that's why it works. You don't become magnetic. You stop repelling. You don't attract alignment. You stop disrupting it. Nothing is trying to test you. Nothing is watching to see if you're doing this right. Nothing is waiting for you to prove readiness. That entire narrative belongs to effort, not to being. When stillness stabilizes, time feels different. Not slower, not faster, less urgent. Moments stop stacking. The future stops pulling. The past stops explaining. There is just this, and this is sufficient. From here, action may arise, or it may not. But if it does, it won't feel heavy. It won't feel forced. It won't feel like compensation. It will feel obvious, simple, uncharged, almost ordinary. That's how you know it didn't come from effort. Effort always carries tension. Being does not. You don't need to hold on to this state. That's just effort in disguise. If it leaves, it leaves. If control returns, it returns. Nothing is lost. Nothing is broken. Nothing has gone wrong. Every return to effort is just another opportunity to notice how unnecessary it is. You're not practicing being. You're remembering what it feels like to stop interrupting yourself. Right now, nothing is being asked of you. Not internally, not externally. You don't need to conclude anything. You don't need to decide anything. You don't need to prepare for what comes next. Just remain as you are without adjusting. That's enough. It has always been enough. Eventually, even the idea of stillness dissolves. Not because you lost it, but because there's no longer anyone trying to maintain it. At first, you were aware of effort stopping. Then, you were aware of presence. Then, you were aware of awareness itself. And then even that becomes unnecessary. This is where language begins to fail, because nothing is happening that needs to be described. Nothing is being achieved. Nothing is being realized. Nothing is being integrated. There is no process left. The mind may return here, softly, casually, asking, is this it? Should something else be happening? Am I done? Those questions don't need answers. They fade when they aren't followed. You're not in a state. States come and go. You're not holding presence. Holding requires effort. You're not witnessing. Even witnessing implies distance. There is just what is without reference. Breathing happens. Sounds appear. Thoughts may arise. Sensations move. But none of it asks for involvement. None of it asks for direction. None of it asks for meaning. This is why the law of being cannot be used. Anything you use becomes effort. Anything you apply becomes interference. Anything you repeat becomes a technique. And being is not a technique. Life doesn't respond to you when you're being, because response implies separation. Life simply continues as itself, and you're no longer standing apart from it. From here, nothing needs to be protected. Nothing needs to be sustained. Nothing needs to be returned to. If tomorrow is busy, it's busy. If tomorrow is quiet, it's quiet. Neither adds nor subtracts from what you are. This is where trust becomes irrelevant, because trust implies uncertainty. And there's nothing uncertain here, not because you know something, but because knowing is no longer required. You don't carry this forward. You don't remember it later. You don't integrate it into your personality. You don't teach it to yourself again. You don't remind yourself to come back here, because you never left. Effort will appear again. It always does. Roles will return. Identity will activate. Thought will organize. Plans will form. Actions will happen. And none of that is a problem. The difference now is subtle. Effort is no longer mistaken for necessity. Control is no longer mistaken for safety. Movement is no longer mistaken for progress. And when exhaustion appears again, as it sometimes will, it will no longer feel like failure. It will feel like a reminder, a quiet one, saying nothing needs to be held. There is no final instruction, no takeaway, no message to apply, no insight to preserve, no understanding to protect, no conclusion to reach. This doesn't end. It doesn't begin either. It simply is when nothing is interfering. You don't need to stay with these words. You don't need to replay this. You don't need to come back. You don't need to do anything after this ends. Let the video finish. Let the silence remain. Let life continue without commentary, without adjustment, without resistance. Nothing is missing. Nothing ever was.